Welcome, Carolina. Thank you very much for taking the time today for this interview. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, Eslam. Thank you for having me. My name is Carolina. I was born and raised in Poland, but since 2017, I work in Romania, in Bucharest, for BPO company.
Okay, and what is your title exactly in the company, your position?
I'm working as a process architect for the procurement team. I'm responsible for procuring all goods and services for factories based in Europe. And I'm mostly responsible for a smooth process for purchasing and day-to-day operation.
Okay, thank you very much. Today we're talking in this interview about organizational change and specifically the part of learning and procedures. And we would like to ask you a few questions about how the company responded to the pandemic we have at the moment. And I would like to start with the first question, which is, how did the top management deal with the pandemic in the first early days of the pandemic during January and February? Did you receive any emails? Did you receive anything from the top management regarding that?
I would say that somewhere already in the end of January, we started to receiving some communication regarding to COVID and the situation, because our company is also based in different countries, not only in Romania. We have also site in China and site in India, two sites in India, if I'm not mistaken. And we were also receiving the global communication regarding the situation. And I knew what is happening in China, for example, that back in December, they noticed the peak of the coronavirus people being affected by the disease. But here in Romania, I would say that the management, the European leaders, they started to take measurements like in February. The measurements as measuring temperature of each person who is entering the building, for example. But there was also sent communication to the client that if someone is planning to visit our location here in Bucharest, they should rethink. And the recommendation was to move the visits to Zoom environment or to postpone it due to uncertainty during the COVID.
Okay, was the emails that has been sent to you like in the beginning, was it like assuring emails?
They were very informative, I consider it, and they were also assuring that the management, the high management, they are fully aware of the situation, and that we shouldn't panic, that we should stay focused, and that they will inform us after the next steps. Even I noticed that even before the country was locked down by the government, my company already took some preventive measurements for the people. For example, the people who were traveling for a business purpose or for personal purposes, they were traveling outside of the Romania. They were requested to stay home and work from home. The necessary tools were sent to them via courier, or a manager was dropping it off. Even if they weren't coming from back then red or yellow zones. Because I remember that one of my colleagues was on vacation in Portugal back then, in the beginning of March, end of February. The Portugal wasn't considered as a red zone or a yellow zone area, but he was requested to stay home.
Okay. Was it the same image that you were also trying to preserve also for your external clients? Was it the same image, the assuring image that everything is fine, everything is okay?
Yes. We try to on each call or each communication, we were ensuring them that the situation is under the cover, that we are covering it, that if there will be a need, we have prepared business continuous plan for each location, that we, even if the country would be locked down, we are prepared to deliver services for the client from different location, meaning home.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about your department. Do you think there anything of a change in the day-to-day like operation that you do like back there?
Yes, back in the office times, we had daily meetings only during the morning. But right now, we also have a summary meeting during the afternoon to check on people, how they are, if there was something mentioned to discuss, to share with others, if there was any technical issues, because this is what we were facing, especially at the beginning. Yes, and all the meetings which we had before, they were moved to a virtual environment.
Okay. Is there anything specifically in procedure or process has been changed, or everything was the same on the system, for example?
No, regarding to the system and day-to-day operation, everything stays the same. We are mostly working on the language-dependent clients. Then for us, even if we are working from home, we still have all the tools which are needed to deliver services from home. We have Avaya available on desktops. Everyone was provided additional monitor if it was needed.
Okay.
And the procedure stayed the same. The only thing we as a management team, we try to monitor a bit more to make sure that people are doing the job as they would in the office.
Okay, thank you very much. And for the moment, you get me thinking as well that from what I heard from you, that the main change was in communication tools among employees.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Are there like what kind of tools have been introduced to the employees for them to communicate through? What kind of tools?
First of all, Zoom is our main tool for the communication, but we are also using Microsoft Teams instead of Skype, since I think already end of 2019. But we also created like a smaller teams inside of the teams to be able to communicate with smaller groups of people. And as a corporation, I know that there is also one team who is dedicated especially to COVID situation, and all the updates are available there.
Okay.
More to because my company is focused on digital and implementing digital tools. There was few weeks ago, there was implementation of the chatbot, which will respond the questions regarding to the COVID and working from home situation.
Okay, so basically it's some kind of a software that manages to respond verbally to questions that clients they have regarding the COVID situation?
No, it's not for the client. It's for the internal usage for all employees. And it's not verbal as, for example, Vodafone Andrea. But you can type to the robot your question, And he will, first of all, he will give you a hint that maybe this your question was already asked by someone, and if it's there in the pool of questions, he will recommend you something regarding to that topic, or he will also answer to your question. If he is not able to provide the question, he will direct you to HR clerk.
Okay. So given somehow that you made somehow a major change in the communication tool, and also you changed the work dynamic from working at the office to working virtually back at home, what kind of challenges for the last 8 weeks you have been facing with your team, for example, like within this, like you have the tools, you have what it takes, but in the same time, if there any kind of challenge that you faced during this time?
I would say that the first challenge for me and my team was that not everyone in the team is good with technology and changes.
Mhm.
People who were working pretty well in... Sorry, I get kicked out of my laptop.
No problem. I still can hear you perfectly.
Yes, but I couldn't see us.
Okay.
Sorry for that. For the
Sure.
what kind of difficulties we faced? First
Yeah.
of all, that there was a problem with being connected to the devices, to being able to set up the laptops for the users who weren't working before from home, and it was something new for them. Because they needed to set up the laptop and all the environments, all the tools, software with IT, but remotely via Zoom on phone calls. That was a big problem at the beginning, because not only my team faced this issue, but also other teams, and the IT department, they were pretty swamped with all the work. Second, what I have noticed would be that it's a bit more difficult to monitor if the people are working from home during those hours, contractual hours. Another thing is engagement. To keep them engaged during the meetings, during the day, on the calls, because I'm facing, and it's a bit frustrating, the silent treatment. Even if the question is there, or I'm asking about sharing, there is just a silence.
Okay.
And there are few people who are responding.
All right. Is there any kind of measures been taken so far regarding this, regarding the parts with the engagement?
We had some ideas which were implemented. For example, before Easter, we created this contest that people were sharing the picture of the Easter eggs on our team's group, and then after we were voting on the best, the prettiest egg, let's say. But during that meeting, people are a bit more engaged, but it didn't really have a big influence on the meetings regarding to work.
So you tried somehow to engage employees in extracurricular activity beside the work and the business activity in order to keep them engaged.
Yes, because back in the office, we also had this event called Friday Fun. That Friday, in the last hours of the day of the week, we were gathering people to get outside of the work environment a bit, and we were creating this different games to engage people still in the office, but the engagement wasn't related to the job which we are doing.
Okay. So, giving this as well, what you said so far, from a learning point of view, if there any training has been introduced to the team during this time of the pandemic, virtually, definitely, since we're talking about communication being moved virtually, is there any kind of virtual training have been introduced to the team so far?
Most of the trainings which were in the classrooms, they were already moved to virtual environment. I think only few remains that they weren't scheduled yet, but I know that learning and development team, they are working to implement those trainings as well. But there are regular products, tools, software trainings, like for example, trainings related to SAP. But I have noticed that there are also some meetings, some Zoom sessions, and some training uh, focus on working from home. And they are different. Some of them, they are regarding to how to secure our environment at work and what should be the proper setup to make us also stay healthy at home. There were also some sessions regarding our posture with Regina Maria team. The training was provided by employees from Regina Maria. I also noticed that this week and the week before, there were also sessions with yoga after work available online to all the employees, some healthy spine classes after work that not only strictly work-related trainings or some events, but also after-work events when people can join and connect with other employees.
Okay, so it was basically meant for the mental health kind of training and
Yes.
sessions. Okay, so going back from this, like even from the trainings that has been moved virtually, giving the results so far or giving maybe what you can see and observe, do you think employees are learning from these virtual experience?
I would say that it's very depending of the structure of the training, because I was a part of some training related to the tool for reporting tool, and the structure was pretty vague, I would say, already at the beginning. And I noticed that it was very difficult for me to focus, to keep in track, because when I was on that training, virtual training, I still was getting receiving emails, and people were contacting me via Teams or different sources. And because of the how the training was run, it was a bit difficult for me, and I consider it a bit of waste of time that I didn't really learn much. But from the other point, the session was recorded, that I will be able to get back to it.
Okay, so the last part somehow, like when it comes to this, from your point of view, what do you think an employee should do that this employee were not doing 2 months ago? Do they should do they anything differently? Should they do anything differently from what they were doing 2 months ago, or do you think they can maintain the same kind of behavior towards work?
Employees or
Employees. Do you think
Mhm.
employees should behave the same way that they were behaving 2 months ago, or do you think should they take a different kind of approach?
No, if we are taking into consideration that 2 months ago I was still in the office, then I think that employees cannot stay in the same place and to not improve and try different approaches, ideas, because otherwise it won't work. Because the same approach which worked for us when we were in the office will not work for the employees while working from home. I am in this good situation that I do not have kids, and I do not have problem with being distracted by kids, by my family. And for me, this situation do not, I would say that it's even better, because at the work environment in the office, I'm constantly being approached by my employees, but the guys who works with me. Here right now, I only relate to this that they will contact me via Zoom or via Teams or email. Then this is for sure something that I do not face. I don't face that my kids are running around and I will be distracted by them. But I know that a lot of people, they are facing this. And first of all, I would say that the companies should be more flexible for this kind of employees who are having families, especially that the schools are closed. And I read yesterday that only the years which are finishing schools, they will be able to come back to the work, to the school, but the rest of the students will stay and learn remotely.
Okay. Let me ask you something. Like, let's say after this pandemic, let's say that you're gonna hire another person, okay, to join your team. You have a profile for the person that you hired. The ideal profile that you had before, is it the same as you have after the crisis, or something will change for the ideal profile for your employee?
I would say that I would add, I would focus more on not necessarily the technical skills, but on the more soft skills, because I consider that the technical skills you can learn. Probably remotely it's a bit more difficult, but people who are open also to the changes, and they are not afraid to the changes, for them it's much more easier to face new situation and to adjust to the new environment and new situation. Because I have noticed that the people who were doing great job and their performance were on very high level, because they were technical person, let's say, that they had a lot of difficulties at the beginning to adjust and to communicate with other people. And most of those persons, they are giving the silence treatment during the meetings.
Okay. So you said before that the leadership or the top management, like in the company, they're trying to do whatever they can internally to assure employees by introducing policies, by making new tools in order for them to get to manage and adjust to the situation. Am I correct?
Yes.
How do you translate that externally to the clients outside? How do you translate that to them? How do you communicate that to them?
There was a global communication, if I can consider it global, because there are situations from which we are in which we are delivering services to the client from different poles. In my case, we are not only delivering the service from Bucharest, but we are also delivering service from China and from India. Then we communicate already very early to the client to keep him updated about the situation. But for each client, we also have the relationship manager. And the relationship manager, he's communicating with the customer and giving all the official communication. At some point, there was sent an official letter, a document prepared by legal, which was mentioning what kind of step was already taken, what kind of step will be taken further to ensure that business won't be affected by the COVID situation. Plus, our manager, who is responsible for this relationship, he has very close relationship with the client, and they have, I think, meeting every week, pre-schedule, but every time there is something urgent, they are calling each other.
All right. Do you think that clients believe this kind of approach, and they already somehow know that you guys are on top of things, and they believe your assurance? Do you think that they believe that?
I don't know about the belief, because it's a bit vague, but we are also giving numbers to assure this. You can see, based on our performance, that this whole working from home situation did not affect the work which we are doing. We also, before, we were reporting to the customer on monthly basis, KPIs, CPIs, and so on and so forth. But right now, we are doing it weekly.
All right.
That this is a pretty good assuring mechanism.
All right. So from this point of view, let's say that you said that also the top management trying to keep you up to date like all the time with what's going on, what may be expected in the future as well, either like, after the pandemic or even like in the next few weeks before we see how it's going to go. So in this case, what is your own prediction based on the messages and the emails that you receive from them? What is your own prediction on how things will go in the next few weeks?
I have read the article that government will soft a bit some measurements which were taken after 16th of May. But I already know that even if the country, let's say, will be open, this not mean that my company and the employees who are working in my company will go back to the office. That first of all, it will be done step by step, and I do not think that we will go back to the office till mid of June.
Okay.
Probably there will be also optional, that if people would like to go back to the office, they will be more than welcome. But I think that the recommendation for the next few weeks will be to still work from home, to ensure that the situation is stable, that we do not put on people more
pressure.
Yes, to just assure that they will stay safe, and if it's not needed, that they should work from home. Yeah.
All right. Do you have any final comments, something you would like to say, like after that, related to what we were talking about?
No, I think that we pretty much cover everything. To be honest, I'm also pretty confident with the work, because I know that I heard some gossip that some of the companies started also to firing people or cutting their salary because of COVID situation. But we also had some communication back a month ago that my company did not wanted to put the measurements, and that we should feel safe. We should not be worried about our position and our job, because that would be the last thing and the last step that the company will did. And till now, I know that, for example, we do not hire externally, but no one was fired. There was no information that we will cut teams in any level. That I think that we are doing pretty great, and the communication is also clear that everyone who is hired by my company should feel safe. And I'm very happy about this.
All right, thank you very much for answering these questions. Thank you very much for your time today with us, Carolina. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now how we can save this, the recording?
I thought that you stopped recording already.
I'm not sure. That's the thing, like how to